What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for October 12th, 2023. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. 4 down, 9 to go. Great, just dominating 10-2 win. Very eerily similar to last year where the Phillies won game 1, lost game 2, won game 3 at home, 10-2. So we'll see what happens. Spencer Strider will be on the mound tonight. And yeah, he said those comments about he didn't want crowd at games, and it seemed like it was a joke, but you rest assured the crowd is going to be out of control tonight, especially since they moved the game time back from 6 to 8. So that will allow just a couple more hours tailgating. The place is going to be out of control. Bryce really took Arcia's comments to heart, hit the 2 bombs. The first one he crushed, man. Whew. But it's the Ranger Suarez game, and just like last year, it's coming down to the Ranger Suarez game. They won the Ranger Suarez game in game 1. I really expect to see Rob Thompson to leave him in there a little bit longer today if he's dealing. But we got to keep that offense rolling like how it was. Don't want to go back to Atlanta on Saturday. 6 home runs tied the record. Like, just an amazing game. It's just they were having fun. And this game felt much different than what the game 2 felt like. It just felt like this was a dominant performance, and I feel like I'm thinking like I'm seeing that continue tonight. I think they close it out. It might not be a huge game, but I think Strider is going to be good. But I think we've seen him enough that it's not like he's coming in the first time. I think Ranger has been dominant the past month or so. And then the bullpen is fairly rested too. So if he does run into any issues, we have the bullpen. Liking the chances tonight. But again, what a game. A couple notes about the game. I will say I like the chop. And it was good that the Braves didn't come back because that could have came back to bite us in the butt. So good work by the crowd on that. And like I said, I definitely see them giving it to Strider tonight, especially about his comments. And again, I think it was a joke. I think the question was any hot takes. So it wasn't anything serious. But now that the fans are going to have 2 extra hours to prep for tonight, I look at it to be a raucous crowd tonight. Another thing, too, and just another thing to add to your hatred of the Braves, and this is really not really the Braves, but it was more, I guess, on the Blue Jays. But Milt Thompson was on Channel 10 News yesterday morning, and he was talking about how for the World Series, after Game 3 of the NLCS, when the Braves went up 2-1 and they had just blown the Phillies out those next 2 games, that the Blue Jays bought all the hotels booked their hotels in Atlanta and not Philly. And then they ended up not being able to get hotels in Philly for the World Series. And it was just a mess. So just another little wrinkle to this rivalry, even though that was really the Blue Jays. But Phillies were playing the Braves, so I figured I'd tell that. And I will say, in 1993, it was the only time the Phillies didn't go back-to-back in the playoffs. So hopefully that plays into this year and they repeat what they did last year and then go on to play the Diamondbacks in the NLCS. But good win for the Phils. Game time moved to 8 tonight. I think I like that because that means the crowd's even going to be more electric. So I almost feel like moving the game back to 8 o'clock is a disadvantage for the Braves. But let me know what you think about that. Also, be sure to check out the Back to the Future we did a couple weeks ago. Interviewed Ken Avalon as we're focusing on our Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame leading up to that induction in November. I don't know. Now that the game is pushed back to 8, I might have some time now to record before the Phillies game. So stay tuned for that. Like I said, new episode coming up this week. I just don't know whether it be today, tomorrow, or Saturday. A lot's going to be dependent upon what I can get done now because we have soccer and things like that. So stay tuned and just know that it is coming. It's just a matter of when I can get it all together and post it for you guys. Some Eagles news. Fletcher Cox, Nakobe Dean practiced yesterday. Sidney Brown was limited. But Darius Slay did show up on the injury report and didn't practice with a knee injury. He did play the whole game, so I don't know if this is more of a precautionary thing, giving him some time to rest. I saw him tweeting, so I don't know if there's any cause for concern, but it's something worth monitoring as they go into that game against the Jets. Flyers open up tonight their regular season against the Blue Jackets down in Columbus. And I don't know. I'm kind of excited. And it's the most I've ever been excited for a Flyer season. And they're going to be terrible this year. However, I do want to see some improvement. I do think they're going to make improvement. It seems like they have more of Tortorella guys in there, which I think will help with the buy-in and everything. Plus, he's already has his system in place in the building, so it's not like he's his first year as a coach coming in. I expect a slight improvement. Last year they finished, I guess they had the 7th pick in the draft, 75 points. I look for them to finish right around there, maybe get to 80 points. But still finish like in the top 10 of the draft, get a top 10 pick probably. But I look anywhere between 9th and 12th in the draft they should be picking. So again, an improvement. I don't think they're going to be good enough to make a playoff run, but they should be fun and entertaining to watch, and they should be showing improvement, which I think is the main thing, especially with a young team going through a rebuild. So I've been telling you, now's the time. Go to phillygoat.com, get your Flyers gear, jump on the bandwagon early. They have other stuff too, Sixers, Eagles, Phillies. I have a feeling we're going to continue this playoff run, so get your Phillies Believe, get the Hunt for Red October shirts, the Wheeling and dealing, what you name it, they have it. They're always coming out with new stuff. And again, they have a wide selection of Eagles stuff that haven't even put anything new out because they've been so busy with the Phils. So go to phillygoat.com, use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order. Get your Flyers gear early. Get on that bandwagon. All right, Sixers lost to the Celtics in preseason action. No harm, no foul. It's preseason. There was no James Harden, no Joel Embiid. But kind of the takeaway from what I've seen, and I've watched some clips and really been reading up on this, Jaden Springer looks pretty good. And he's kind of like a Mr. Do-It-All. Like he was hitting threes, playing good defense, driving to the basket. So they might not be in as bad a shape, depending on what happens with the James Harden situation, as we anticipated. And he's a good piece moving forward. Young guy. I think it's his 3rd year. So, I mean, he's playing for a contract. So, it might be something that plays into our advantage. So, want to continue to watch him. We've still got another week or so before the Sixers kick off. But I'm expecting a Harden bomb coming soon. Not necessarily negative, but I feel like it's been quiet, and I feel like every couple weeks there's something. He's been good. He's been a good teammate. So whether that's a trade, whether that's some story leaking, I don't know. But I feel like we're due for a Harden bomb. All right. Today, we're going to go back to 2003, and on this day in 2003, the 2-2 Eagles took on the 3-1 Cowboys at the old Texas Stadium. But before we get into that, let's take a trip back. Back in the 2000, the Eagles opened up in Dallas. You might remember that as the pickle juice game where it was hot, and the Eagles drank pickle juice before the game and just went out and dominated the Cowboys. Deuce Staley, I think, ran for almost 200 yards. That was McNabb's first full season as the starter. Andy Reid opened that game up with an onside kick. It set the tone for the year and really symbolized the changing of the guard in the NFC East from the Cowboys to the Eagles. So fast forward now 3 years, 2003 on this day, and Andy Reid tried it again. However, it wasn't as successful. Bill Parcells and the Cowboys were ready for it. And not only were they ready for it, Randall Williams of the Cowboys returned it 37 yards for a touchdown to open up the game. It was the fastest score to this day still in NFL history. Within 3 seconds, the Cowboys were up 6-0. They did hold on. The Eagles did battle back, but the Cowboys held on for a 23-21 victory, basically having a 2-game lead then in the division in mid-October. I remember this very, very well. There was a ton of questions surrounding the Eagles. What were they going to be? Was McNabb the answer? Was Andy Reid the answer as coach? Did they peak the year before that Tampa Bay where they still having that hangover from the season. And then in the end, the Eagles would get the last laugh, though, on the Cowboys, because after that day in Dallas, the Eagles went 10-1, won the division. That was the 2003 year. It was 4th and 26 when they almost lost to the Packers, and then the Panthers NFC Championship game when McNabb got hurt and had a couple tipped interceptions, which I still will go to my grave saying the interceptions in that game were not Donovan's fault, especially since he was injured and the balls were bouncing off their hands. But enough about that. But on this day, back in 2003, it was the Cowboys beating the Eagles 23-21. Andy Reid opening the game with an onside kick that was returned by Randall Williams for a touchdown. And it was the fastest score in NFL history, a record that still stands today. But again, the Eagles had the last laugh. All right. New episode of the Clashing Conferences podcast dropped. I'm anxious to listen to that today and just see what goes on. Like I think it's almost to the point where they might turn against Greg and just take their anger and frustrations and take them out on him, even though their teams are terrible. But be sure to check out the Clashing Conferences podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. All right, continuing with our Hall of Fame, Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame induction. Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame focus as we lead up to the induction. I'll get it out. And it's going to be a late one tonight. Whew. But today we're going to look at some Cracker Jack collegians for their 20 for 20. Again, I mentioned there's the 20th induction class. They've inducted now 20 sports. So they've been focusing on the 20 best in any specific category. And we're bringing them here to you. If you want more information on the 20 for 20, this year's induction class, or how to get tickets, go to PhiladelphiaSportsHallOfFame.org. All the information and everything you need is there. Just bought my ticket yesterday. We are good to go. If you want more information about how you can help out the hall, setting up a visit, or just the past inductees, I mentioned yesterday, it's really easy to just search. You can search by sport. You can search by name, year, whatever you need. Go to phillyhall.org. It's two separate sites. I think they're eventually going to combine them, but go check out both sites for all information and all things Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. But the Cracker Jack Collegians, the best college athletes from the area, and like some of these are repeat people. So like Dawn Staley, obviously was from the area. She won two NCAA Player of the Year awards at Virginia. She was a 4-time All-American, but then we also had her on the coach because she's done wonders, whether it be at Temple or South Carolina. So kudos to Dawn Staley. And she was a hell of a high school basketball player here in her own right. The other one that we're going to be talking more about will be Truxton Hare, who was a 4-time All-American football player at Penn. He is actually an inductee this year, so later this month we'll be discussing Truxton Hare. And then Leroy Burrell, we talked about him from the Olympics one. 9-time All-American from the area, but 9-time All-American. He's the NCAA record holder in the long jump for the Houston Cougars track and field team. We got Charlene Morit, field hockey, 3-time All-American at Penn State. Charles Kidd Kenneth, he's Player of the Year, 6-time All-American at Penn for both football and basketball. Concrete Charlie, Chuck Bednarik, a 2-time All-American, Maxwell Award, College Hall of Famer from the University of Penn. We all know the famous line in the pros when he said, "This fucking game is over," when he hit Frank Gifford and nearly decapitated him. Don Bragg, 4-time All-American, 3 NCAA titles at Villanova for the pole vault. Earl the Pearl Monroe. Yes, Earl the Pearl was from Philly. Player of the Year, 2-time All-American, College Basketball Hall of Famer from Winston-Salem State. Joe Verdier, a 5-time All-American and 4 NCAA titles for LaSalle as a swimmer. John Capoletti, you might know him from the movie Brian Song, Heisman Trophy winner, Maxwell and Walter Camp Awards, All-American from Penn State. Just a great movie, great player, great story, and that's coming from a guy who doesn't like Penn State. Karen Shelton, who's a 3-time Player of the Year, 3-time All-American from Westchester for field hockey. Linda Page, two-time All-American at NC State for basketball. The L Train, Lionel Simmons, Player of the Year, All-American, fifth all-time leading scorer in college basketball Hall of Famer from LaSalle, the L Train himself. I remember when I first started getting into basketball, like watching him, Hank Gathers, Bo Kimball, a lot of those, like that's when I got into college basketball. And then even like his rivalries versus Temple, St. Joe's, Villanova, just a fun time for the Big Five. It's a shame it's not around as the way it was back then. Lisa Raymond, 5 NCAA titles, 2-time Player of the Year, 2-time All-American, the University of Miami for tennis. We did discuss her previously when we talked about Women's History Month. Paul Arizin, Player of the Year, All-American, NCAA scoring leader, College Basketball Hall of Famer from Villanova. My boy, Richard Rip Hamilton from Coatesville, Pennsylvania, 2-time All-American, most outstanding player of the tournament, College Basketball Hall of Famer, UConn basketball, just won that title, and I just remember it well. Lots of good times watching him playing in high school as well. I've talked about the matchup down at the Palestra with him and Kobe. Teresa Grentz, who we also just talked about on the coaching side of things. She was a 3-time All-American at Immaculata. Tom Gola, the arena at LaSalle is named after him, but he was Player of the Year, 3-time All-American, most outstanding player of the NCAA tournament, College Basketball Hall of Famer from LaSalle. Walt Hazard, who was Player of the Year, All-American, NCAA tournament, most outstanding player from UCLA, played back on those great teams with in the 60s and 70s. And finally, probably the greatest athlete to ever come out of Philadelphia. Maybe not greatest, but maybe the most dominant athlete. And if my Uncle Randy's listening, here's your boy. Wilt Chamberlain, 2-time Player of the Year, 2-time All-American, most outstanding player of the tournament, College Basketball Hall of Fame. Somehow he ended up in Kansas. Still can't figure that out. He actually left early, played for the Globetrotters, came back home, played for the Warriors and the Sixers, went to the Lakers, but probably the most dominant player ever in any sport, really, Wilt Chamberlain. So, I mean, this list is just phenomenal. And all of these guys are homegrown folks who went on to have successful not only pro or college, but also pro careers and have done amazing things like Leroy Burrell just being an Olympic champion, Chuck Bednarik. Like, it's just an amazing group. And it just goes to show, and again, like, I'm amazed as we've been going through and I've been really diving into this Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, just the level of talent from this area and just the rich history of sports in Philadelphia. Again, it's a great organization. You want to come join me at the Hall of Fame ceremony, go to the PhiladelphiaSportsHallOfFame.org, get your tickets, and learn more about this year's induction class. If you're going to be there, let me know. We'll catch up. On this day, back in 2003, the Eagles started the game off with an onside kick. Randall Williams of the Cowboys returned it 37 yards for the quickest score in NFL history. Flyers face off tonight for their first game of the season. Going to be a long one, but I think it should at worst be somewhat entertaining. Young team. And again, I mentioned it, and I want to see them develop winning the right way, not necessarily the losing stench that's still probably in the building over in the Sixers. Hopefully Darius Slay is okay for the game for the Eagles on Sunday. We'll monitor that. If you're going to the game tonight, get fired up. Give it to Spencer Strider. I want this game to be over by like the 6th inning, where there's no doubt about it. Let's get behind Ranger. Let's get some bombs. Get loud. I cannot wait to see what this is going to look like on TV. So let's go, Phils. Let's close it out. Nobody wants to go to Atlanta. We can get a fresh start on Monday. And I think because of the way everything went, we would get home field advantage now in the NLCS. So let's go. It's going to be the last good day because the rain is coming in. But go enjoy your Thursday. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. And until next time, go Phils.